From 1990 to 2010, the bodies of many young men were found drowned in different bodies of water in several midwestern American states. Many of these cases could be passed off as accidental drownings. Retired New York detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte believe that these men were actually victims of a serial killer or group of serial killers targeting college-age males who had been drinking, leaving either a party or a bar. These two retired detectives believe they were part of the Smiley Face Murders. Whether this is just some wild conspiracy or there is a possibility that there is some truth in this theory, I want each of you to jump down this rabbit hole with me and trying to uncover the truth we can on the matter. Now, as I start this video, I want to make something very clear, that the Smiley Face Murder theory is not at all related to the Happy Face Killer from 1992. The Happy Face Killer was indeed a real serial killer named Keith Jesperson. He was convicted for 8 confirmed deaths but claimed to have killed as many as 185 victims. Jesperson, who was arrested in 1995 of suspicion of killing a woman in Washington state, was dubbed the Happy Face Killer because he drew smiley faces on letters he sent to the media and police. Now, I'm not going to dive into any more detail concerning the Happy Face Killer because that could be another video all in itself. The case that started this all off was back in 1997 in New York City. A university student named Patrick Mcneill was out drinking on a Sunday night at the favorite local spot, the Dapper Dog. The Dapper Dog was a place that the university students would frequent due to the fact that they would never cut you off from drinking, no matter how drunk you would get. Shortly after midnight, Patrick said his goodbyes and stumbled his way out onto the street to make his walk back home. Those that were outside noticed a white van that seemed to be following his every move, slowing down when Patrick would slowly stumble along, and even stop when Patrick would drunkenly fall to the ground. Patrick would turn down 90 of the street, and the van would slowly follow him. This would be the last time that anyone would see Patrick alive. Detective Kevin Gannon, who we mentioned earlier, was given the case. Patrick's lifeless body was found floating face up in the East River next to the Brooklyn Pier. His body was very decomposed, and he was only wearing his jeans and socks. Many different rumors about Patrick's personal life started swirling around that might make it seem like he did this to himself, or he was trying to escape his problems with drugs and alcohol and suffered a tragic accident. Even the medical examiner called the death an undetermined drowning, but Detective Gannon had other suspicions. Patrick had marks on his wrist suggesting that he had been tied up prior to his drowning, and his body showed signs that he was dead before he was placed in the water. Add in the suspicious van that was following him, and this case suddenly seems to get a little more sinister. Over the years, Detective Gannon started linking similarities between other cases that started to pop up that would later turn into this full-blown theory. This Smiley Face Murder theory is based off a few connections between the cases. All the victims are young men attending college that are doing well academically with very high professional aspirations. Majority of the victims are white males, and all of them have been out drinking at bars with their friends. The victims were reported missing after the night of drinking and later found in a nearby body of water. Even if most of the cases were considered accidental, drownings they showed signs that they died prior to being placed in the body of water that they were all found in. The biggest connection in these cases was the smiley face graffiti that was found near the body of water these bodies were found in. The killer or killers were leaving their mark so investigators would know exactly who was responsible. Now, the number of cases that are said to be connected to the Smiley Face Murders varies dramatically. Some say around 25 victims have been victims of the Smiley Face group, and some estimates go as high as 325. Obviously, when we are talking about a theory in cases such as these, numbers can be highly exaggerated, but I will go over a few cases that are said to be linked to this theory. Dakota James was 23 years old when he went missing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. On January 25, 2017, around 11:30 p.m., James was walking back to his apartment after a night of drinking with friends and co-workers. He never made it home. The last known sighting of the university graduate student was caught on a surveillance camera in the downtown area. The footage captured James entering a dark alley, and that was the last time he was seen alive. The following morning, James did not show up for work. His boss informed his family, who filed a missing persons report 72 hours later. His parents had to hire a private investigator who organized a massive citywide search, which led to the discovery of James's body in the Ohio River on March 6, 2017, 40 days after he had disappeared. The Pittsburgh police theorized James fell into the river while crossing a bridge near the city and drowned. They believed his body traveled for almost 10 miles and even went through a dam before its discovery. Even after traveling 10 miles, James's body had no visible damage, which was highly suspicious. A smiley face was found spray painted on an underpass near where James's body was discovered. Tommy Booth disappeared on January 19, 2008 from a bar in Woodland, Pennsylvania. He was 24 years old. That night, he had been celebrating a friend's 21st birthday. Surveillance footage captured Booth entering the bar where the celebration took place, but there is no evidence of him leaving. 2 weeks after he went missing, his body was found face down behind the bar in a nearby creek. This creek had been searched multiple times before the discovery of his body. According to Detective Gannon, it looked like his body had been placed there after his death. Near his body were shoe and drag marks in the wet soil. A smiley face was painted on a wall on one of the lower decks of the bar. September 29, 2006. 21-year-old Lucas Homan vanished from La Crosse, Wisconsin. The day of his disappearance, Homan had been celebrating Oktoberfest with his friends. After a night of bar hopping, Homan headed home at around 10 p.m. with a friend. Homan and his friend somehow got separated during their walk home, and his friend ended up at the ER after being picked up by police. He told investigators he could not remember anything that happened that night. Homan did not arrive for a golf outing the next day. Search dogs secured the downtown area where Homan was last seen alive. According to police reports, one dog later hit on an SUV owned by a local band member who had played a show at the bar the night of Homan's disappearance, but the canine alert was inconclusive. Officials did not implicate the band member in Homan's death. The morning of October 2nd, Homan's body was found not far from the shore of the Mississippi River. His death was ruled an accidental drowning, and the autopsy report noted that alcohol was a major factor. According to Gannon, Homan had various injuries on his head, hands, and arms, and they theorized that a mark on his forehead may have been a footprint that was the result of Homan being held down. He was the 8th accidental drowning case in La Crosse over a 9-year period. A smiley face was found spray painted near where Homan's body was found. Todd Geib was a 22-year-old when he went missing during the early hours of June 12, 2005 at a bonfire party in an orchard close to his home in Casanova, Michigan. He was reported missing later that day by his mother, and a massive manhunt ensued. The night of his disappearance, Geib made several calls from his cell phone. One of them was to a friend who said he heard Geib say, "I'm in a field," before the call dropped. Geib's body was found 3 weeks later in a lake that had previously been searched. His death was ruled an undetermined drowning. Oddly, Geib's head and shoulders were sticking out of the water, as if he had gone for a swim. His remains also had very little signs of decomposition. Alcohol and antidepressants were found in his toxicology screen, but it was reported that he was not suffering from any form of depression at that time. A smiley face had been spray painted on a tree near where his body was found, and a smiley face sticker was later placed on his gravesite. William Hurley, a 24-year-old Navy veteran, went missing after leaving a Bruins hockey game in Boston, Massachusetts. On October 8, 2009, Hurley went to the game with 2 of his friends. Halfway through the game, Hurley called his fiancée Claire and said he wanted to leave. He walked outside and waited for her outside the stadium while she was on her way. When she arrived, he was nowhere to be found. She called him on his cell phone, and when he answered, she heard him ask somebody where he was located. The man said 99 Nashua Street, and Hurley said his cell phone battery was going to die. She drove to the address, but Hurley was not there. After she called him a second time, his cell phone seemed to be out of battery. She drove around for an hour before returning home, thinking he had got another ride. When she got back, he was still not there. After she reported him missing, a few searches went underway. 6 days after his disappearance, his body was found in the Charles River, close to where he had asked her to pick him up. Investigators said there was no sign of foul play, and his death was ruled an undetermined drowning. According to Hurley's mother, a copy of the autopsy report said he had suffered severe blunt face trauma to the head and his eye socket and behind his leg. GHB was also found in the system along with alcohol, and a smiley face was found painted near the river. These are just a few of the most popular cases that are connected to this theory, and there are plenty more that are more loosely connected. Now, many people have come to the conclusion that the Smiley Face murder theory is more of a publicity stunt than an actual real-life theory. Honestly, there isn't a lot of factual-based evidence to back up this theory. In 2010, there was a 12-page report called Drowning the Smiley Face Murder Theory published by the Center for Homicide Research. They state that there was a lack of evidence to back up the fact that most of these cases weren't just accidental drownings due to intoxication. No real evidence of foul play has been able to truly be identified outside of speculation and outside of what Detective Gannon has said himself. The smiley faces that are around the bodies of water are all different colors, different styles, and really have no connection to each other besides the fact that they are just smiley faces. Who's to even say that they weren't already there way before any of the victims were in the area? Now, with over 80,000 accidental drownings between 1995 and 2005, I'm sure there would be plenty of similar circumstances between some of these cases. Maybe you're one of those who do not believe this theory and just think these are just tragic stories for all those that are involved. Or maybe you believe Detective Gannon and think there is a group of sadistic individuals targeting drunk college students to drug, torture, and dump their bodies in a nearby body of water while leaving a smiley face to laugh at those close to the victims. We all have to agree that these are all tragic victims whose lives ended way sooner than they should have.